4:30, we're good.
All right. Right. I'm going to call the Center Township Board meeting to order. Move to, like, motion to approve the minutes of 6:23 at 7:18 as previously published.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second. The only thing I caught on the minutes from July 18th is that I seconded the motion to adjourn. So, and of course, I wasn't here, so I don't know if that needs to be corrected or not.
Yeah, that needs to be correct.
It should be, yes. In your record keeping, did you move?
I moved, Fred seconded.
Okay.
Probably copied over from the other one when I had my nice language and got changed.
Yeah, so that was it.
well, all those in favor,
As corrected.
say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Jason, you're up.
Well, all right. Well, as you guys are all aware, it's budget season. And, so it's my least favorite time of the year for me. We, probably be coming and asking the board here to do, an excess levy appeal to the identical ordinance. The city's, working on putting one together for the fire territory, with Michelle at, OW Crown. And so, as you guys know, we have to have identical ordinance or, simple ordinances, or resolutions to, go along with that appeal. So hopefully we're successful. I am going to be asking for 3 more medics for next year on our budget. Our run load kind of, you look back over the years, about every 3 years we had a spike. And then just have incremental increases in between. And so this year is our spike year and it's right on time. So we're going to be up about another 500 or 600 runs, maybe a little more than that. But, so we're probably going to be close to 6,000 runs. And so anyway, we're quickly approaching the point where we are no longer going to be able to really provide good coverage out of 2 stations. Our run line keeps growing. Because we're, as you guys know, we're relying on Sugar Creek and Buck Creek quite a bit. So I'm working and trying to figure out different ways to come up with the revenue for the staffing. That's our biggest thing, is the staffing as far as, opening the 3rd station. But it definitely needs to be on the minds of city and township elected officials. Because in another 3 years, I don't, not really gonna be able to provide service. I don't like the fact now, that people have, as many people have to wait as they do, for an ambulance to come from Buck Creek or Sugar Creek. But we've done everything internally that we can to keep our ambulances in service as much as possible. And, it helped a little bit in the beginning, but now, with the increase in the run load, what we have done has just been really negated by the increase, and so we're going to keep, working at that. And then, trying to stay competitive with our pay and benefits, because I truly do have a really good group of people here and I don't want to lose them. And the officers that are on shift, they do a real good job of making this an environment that people want to be in, they want to work in. But we have to at least stay competitive with our neighbors and not have a huge gap. So, and they understand that, we can't compete with, some of the municipalities in Hamilton County and things like that, but we also can't be over $30,000 behind them. So, because when you start looking at that much money, that's a lot of money, you know. That they could potentially earn somewhere else, so. So I'm gonna keep working on that, you know, trying to stay competitive. And, you know, we're, as far as financial shape of the territory, we're in really good shape. Really the best shape that we've ever been in. And I think at the end of this year, we're gonna be even in better shape going into 26. The revenues and things, because along with all these increased runs, you know, our ambulance revenues increasing well along with that, so. And of course, you know, Center Township's gonna be moved out at the end of the month, so. That's really the biggest things that I have to report to you guys. You know, like I said, you know, and the city officials as well, you know, it's the same thing. I have a real concern, you know, that we are headed for a flip and we really have to be busy with this. We can't just keep going, well, you know, and kicking it down the road, so.
You know how much the excess levy request is gonna be for?
According to, I don't know if it was Michelle or Buzz, but they did some preliminary figures. It's around 710,000. Generally, that comes in lower than what they project a little bit, not too much, but they'll take into account for the increase in like excise and eat it and that kind of thing. And then they'll reduce your levy request by that much, but that's, you know, like $20,000, $30,000 increase in those incremental taxes that we get.
And then is the hope for a chunk of that to help pay for the 3 new medics?
No, I'm using the excess levy from this year to pay for them. Yeah.
Okay, so these aren't 3 in addition to the 3 you had mentioned prior. I think you mentioned them in the past that you were kind of using.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So, I had originally thought that I would ask the city to open the salary ordinance and add them in this year. But I feel like it's better, to wait. Number one, it's gonna help us financially. It's gonna make us a little more financially strong. And then it's not going to create a situation where they have to open the salary ordinance, because that's the coveted thing that they don't like to do. And, so I'm trying to, basically play both sides against the metal, you know, and, but I definitely need them for next year, you know, going forward, so. When I talked to him about getting that third ambulance in service, I don't think I've done a great job explaining how that works. That third ambulance, when we can get that in service, it's in service, but it's cross-staffed with guys that are on the ladder that are also covered in the tanker or in the rescue. So I don't have, when that truck's in service, I don't have 2 guys just sitting on that truck. You know, they're also catching other trucks as depending on what the run is that comes out that it is. So I think in the past, I didn't do a great job explaining that. And I think people thought that we just have people dedicated to that truck, and we don't. So it's kind of, you know, got guys jumping around. That's okay. They don't mind doing it. You know, they're in the business to make runs. So more trucks are jumping on, the more runs are making. So.
Have there been any estimates on what a third station might cost? I know everything's high and getting higher still, but.
Yeah, really, to do it right, I need 12 firefighter EMTs and 3 medics, so a total of 15 people. So that there, you're talking close to probably around 2 million, and I'm just estimating.
Yeah,
Don't want to, just in salaries, benefits, and that kind of stuff. And then, of course, the insurance is going to go up, and then, you know, there'd be a bond payment. And, you know, utilities, because now we got the third station. So I estimated the utilities and insurance and maintenance and that kind of stuff to be about 100,000. just based on the two we've got. And I, be honest with you, I just divided the budget in half and said, oh, that would be what a third station would cost, because that's what we're paying for two.
Yeah.
And, add that to it, but the biggest thing is, having that constant flow to be able to pay for salaries, it's not hard to bond to build the building. But I don't have anybody to put in on, so.
Yeah.
And, the other thing too is, when we're calling in Sugar Creek and stuff, White Creek for help, they're not just taking ambulance runs. I know that's kind of what's always on everybody's mind. We do about 70 to 75% of our runs are ambulance runs, but they're helping us with other stuff too when we're busy. Gas leaks, fire alarms, lines down, just all kinds of stuff.
So from our meeting that we had, we talked about, obviously my concern about the additional appropriation we did last year of $500,000. And I'm glad that you guys would be using it for this year or going into 26 to hiring 3, but we're talking about a shortage of firemen that we have. We were also discussing hiring 3 other firemen. Has that been off the table now?
No, that's, gonna bring that, my budget meeting with them's August 12th. And so I plan to bring that up and talk about that. Of course, that would be completely dependent on receiving that, because when I did a very simple, balance sheet that I can understand, got credits and your debits and, and so, the budget that I proposed this year or for next year, runs us just up underneath what our credits are gonna be. So, from that point of view, there's not, we're not really leaving money on the table sort of thing. But if we get this additional money, then we'd have that to utilize to go towards hiring 3 more firemen.
My concern was that we raised taxes from this last levy increase, or excess levy, with the hope of hiring 3 new people at the beginning or in the middle of the year. Obviously, with SB1, there was a lot of unknowns, and I would understand. The reason why it wasn't appropriated and they don't want to open up the salary ordinance was because it wasn't pre-put in there. Do we have any kind of assurances that if we go ahead and raise taxes again by doing this additional appropriation, that June of next year, we will be able to hire the 3 new firemen, total of 6 new hires for next year?
So the city council would have to, be the ones to give you that assurance. I can assure you, I'm gonna ask for them. And I asked for the 3 medics last year to be in the salary ordinance, and then they got cut. That's why they weren't in there, but I asked for them, and it kind of got, I don't know if you want to call it a directive, but I got a memo from the council to only ask for certain things in the budget for next year. And so I just said, well, I'll submit that budget, but I'm also going to submit the budget that I need, because that's not what I need. And the mayor supports this, I have to get the staffing up and stuff, and he understands that, we're not asking people to pay taxes to create a humongous savings account. We're asking people to pay taxes so that we can provide them with a service. So
That's my concern for the board members, is that I don't want us to raise taxes with an additional appropriation if we're just padding the savings account of the city, and they're not utilizing it, when the definite need from the fire chief is that we need firemen and we need to hire firemen. So I want us to be able to do that. I'd like for the pressure to be put on for the city council to be making some kind of assurances that if we are to do another additional appropriation, or no, I'm sorry, levy appeal, thank you, that we have some sort of, yes, it'd be written in. If they get it granted, then it'd be written into the budget for the additional, so they don't have to open up a salary ordinance. Because if not, we're gonna be waiting another 6 months, which they've accrued the interest for the amount of money, which we've kind of done some research into, that's not going to your budget, which I have major concerns about as well. So,
Yeah, and last year, and I'll bring it up again this year, is we go ahead and put them in, you know, we'll wait to hire them, you
right,
know, until the middle of the year. And then that way, we're sure we're getting the levy appeal. And then we've also got that first tax draw. So the money's already at the bank to pay them rather than, you know, paying them before we get tax money. But we started the fire territory with a zero balance, which wasn't a great thing to do back then, but we learned from it. So we've been constantly digging out of that hole, and we had a really sizable shift this year. And I'm going, everybody uses June 30th numbers, but I'm kind of going off of June 1st. Before the tax draw comes in this year, we had 100 and some thousand left in the account. And last year, the account was negative. It was negative 700 and some thousand. Of course, the city just, pays the bills and then they get paid back when the tax draw comes in. But we've been able to make a sizable shift in that. That's why I say we're in this financial position we've been in a long time. And so I'm looking forward to next year because, our ambulance revenue was projected for this year at 1.4 million. We're already at $1 million. So, I'm conservatively thinking we're going to be about 1.8, which would be an additional $400,000 in revenue that didn't get budgeted to spend. So, that's going to add to our cash balance December 31st, take us through the first 6 months. And then hopefully on June 30th, we have a positive account balance and not negative. So it's been a long work in progress. I'm just trying to dig out of that hole that was created by not starting it with any money.
And then obviously we'll see the impacts of SB1 next year on the draw. And then I think the other piece that I've been thinking about, particularly with our reliance on our surrounding stations, is the discussions that they're likely to have on local government in terms of merging townships or units. My concern is that there might be an argument made of, well, if we merge you with another unit, congrats, you have those bodies, but that doesn't change anything. So I think that's something that I'm a little worried about. And during that discussion is the mergers are going to cover needs for a third fire station and potentially 15 additional people. And that's one thing I think when we come around to the next legislative cycle and they start talking about local governments, I think that's something that the board alongside our chief role.
So
Want to keep track.
I've been talking about a merger with Buck Creek for a long time. And the thing is that there's no merger in Hancock County that's going to save money right off the bat. And I've been very upfront with that because we have to make an investment to catch up because nobody has an excess of staff or stations nobody works here with an excess. So we have to be able to catch up with the growth that's happened that we've really not been able to always stay up with. And then we have to also think about planning for the future because the way that the state, allows us to levy our budget and stuff like that. It's not like we can just go, hey, we need an extra 5 cents so we can get these people, unfortunately, that just doesn't work that way. So, but it's not all gloom and doom by any means. I'm not ready to stand at the pulpit. People are going to die. But, we have this brick wall coming. We have to be aware of it, be planning for it before it gets here.
Did I hear you correctly that the city council tells you what to put in your budget?
Well, yeah, I mean, they're over the budget, just like you guys are over the budget for the township. And so sometimes they'll say, hey, this is what we're looking at doing. This is what we want you to ask for. And so, you know, they got a rather large budget, you know, and a lot of different departments, and so, I mean, I don't know, you know, I could kind of understand that a little bit where they kind of want to control all the requests because some of their requests get pretty large and mine's could be large, you know. But at the same time, I feel like it's my job as the chief to say this, you know, this is what we need and make sure that, you know, they're aware of that. That I'm not just saying, okay, well, that's all of us. You know, I want to make sure that they're aware, just like I want to make sure you guys are aware, you know.
I would encourage the board, obviously, we can all go in separate sections of the room, but to the budget workshop. And that they will have, it's a public meeting. So I know that I will be attending to give my.
I feel like, you know, we had the first ever meeting this year.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was Councilman Riley, the mayor, yeah, Thomas, you and me.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was a positive meeting. So I'm hoping that we're going to take that momentum into August 12th. And we're going to be able to, you know, keep going from that. And I've, you know, I've met with some of the other council members and they explained my concerns and they seem to have a good understanding of it. So, you know, I'm trying to you know, I'm trying to be positive about it, that, you know, we're going to be able to make some strides for next year. But I also know they're nervous, you know, about the Senate bill, just like, you know, all government agencies are. So trying not to, sometimes I feel like I'm like the crazy fire chief that comes up with these crazy ideas, you know, and, yeah, they're like sitting there looking at me like, you're crazy, you know, but I'm trying to get us thinking outside the box a little bit on some things that are potentially out there to help us, you know, be better. So, and some of it's not really new in the fire service, not new in Indiana. It's just new to Hancock County. So anything new that's of a large measure tends to, you know, make people stop and not just jump on board.
And I think I've made myself very understandable for you,
Yeah.
saying I would rather, you know, get the
Right.
bodies hired now and not have a place to put them
Right,
and then build a third station because we can bond
right,
like that.
right.
So that's not a concern, but it's the hiring and finding that money to be able to hire
Right.
and retain. That's what I want. I, you know, my goal is to see at least 6 people hired, you know, for
Right.
next year.
Yeah,
So I'd like to have 3 hired this year and 3 firemen for next year.
and the city growth is not slowing down.
Right. No,
That's the other thing.
I got a report from the planning office today that shows how many permits are getting issued every month. It's, you know, it's not slowing down and there's, you know, there's quite a bit of other things planned, which is good. You know, I want to see the city grow, be good and healthy, but I also want to make sure we can, you know, properly cover everything.
to be completely transparent, some of those permits are kind of redundant and unnecessary, but we won't go into that.
Oh, no, the ones that I'm talking about are like for new single family, new duplexes and then new multifamily, which would be 3 units or above.
Good.
But yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
The budget workshop it hasn't been scheduled yet, has it?
For them, yes.
Okay. And that's the one on the 12th?
No, that's my meeting with the mayor, clerk and 3 city council members.
Okay. Do you know what day the workshop's scheduled?
And,
No,
I
he's
can get
emailed
that
it to me,
Okay.
and I can send that out to you guys.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be, they've kind of waited really late in the year, a lot later than they normally do, because they've really been trying to get a grasp around this Senate Bill 1 stuff to, you know, kind of have a better idea. What it is.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah.
I hope the fire wasn't too hard for you.
No.
Good.
No.
Next thing on the agenda is township service providers. Mental health partners.
Hi, good to stand.
Sit right there.
I'm Kim Hall. I'm the Executive Director of Mental Health Partners. In 2024, we had 30 clients that were 7 males, ages 9 to 36. We had 17 females, ages 9 to 55, that we provided counseling for. And when I say provided, we provided the financial assistance for that. They attended counseling at Rugged Grace, Oasis, and Think Well, Live Well counseling. We have survivors of suicide support group. We have 3 Center Township residents that attend the meetings every month. And last year, we also provided an emergency counseling for Center Township trustee employees. We hand out approximately 5 personal care bags a month. So we spent $9,678.60 on your residents for counseling. So
Can you restate that amount, please?
$9,678.60.
And then, so I know you said, it was 30 males between, I think it was 9 and 36 and 17 women between 9
9
to
to 55.
in terms of the, I guess, most common category of age group, does it tend to be under 18, kind of 20 to 35?
A lot of these were kids. I meant to write that down to say exactly how many were kids, but I didn't.
Is this kind of a high, this number of folks?
For kids, yeah, definitely high for kids. But it's, if I was to say 7 male and 17 female that were ages 18 to 60, that would be okay. But when it's kids, that's kind of scary, I think.
Do you see that increasing?
Yes. 4 kids, parents last week called me. 4 kids in 1 week.
What's the qualifications for the personal bags?
If they need stuff.
What kind of stuff
don't.
do you guys keep in
We
there?
have shampoo, it's full-size bottles. I don't deal with the hotel size. Shampoo, conditioner, body wash, bar soap, a bath towel, hand wash rag, body lotion, nail clippers, Q-tips, comb, nail file, floss, toothbrush, toothpaste. I do have denture cream and a thing for the little plastic thing for your denture, so I'm not sure what that's called. But anything that you need to take to the bathroom, take a shower, get clean, that's all we have.
What are the times that you allow people to come in for those?
I advertise that I'm there 10 to 3, Monday through Thursday. And I do ask that they call to make sure that I'm there and so that I have everything ready for them.
Out of the 5 bags that you hand out a month, how many of those are Center Township residents? Would you estimate?
Oh, I did not do that. Sorry. I can figure it out, let you know.
Do you get those donated to you or do you pay for them? How do you budget?
I still have backpacks that were donated that I'm using, so I haven't purchased backpacks, but yeah, I go to Dollar Tree and Walmart to get stuff because you can get some things cheaper at Walmart than Dollar Tree. So yes, I do go, and it's easier because they'll bring it to the car.
In terms of the folks who are getting the bags, again, what kind of age group do those typically fall into?
It's usually adults. I've had families that will have 3 and 4 kids. So
Do you specialize more in male or female?
No,
I ask because obviously we have the women's resource as well.
yeah, I know they've got their pantry. No, it's pretty much equal for the backpacks. I mean, and it's not just the single person, it's a family. Sometimes it's family, so. You want me to email you the backpack thing?
Sure.
Any other questions?
In terms of, structuring the donations, do you guys do like a donation call for products or anything, or how does that work?
At Christmas time, we have gift lift, and that's where we provide presents to residents in group homes and nursing homes. And different organizations, Tri Kappa and different churches donate at Christmas time for that. So that's really the only time.
Donate to your organization?
Yes.
Okay.
For gift lift.
Okay.
So that's really the only time we do a drive, but I don't call it a drive, but
But tend to be dollars or stuff.
stuff.
Okay.
And so what I would need, the extra, I go to Walmart and purchase.
And then when you, send Thomas that information, could you also put, just in there, like, what are common products, that you run low on, or that if people did donate would be helpful to have? Just so that way we know we can, we're out, in the next couple months, we can also flag for folks if they have extra. I know there tends to be a lot of donation drives as you get into the holidays. And so I just think it'd be a good opportunity for the Center Township, especially as we're shifting and hopefully gonna have some more new marketing stuff come out with our move. We can incorporate that kind of stuff to like.
I
Thank
will
you.
let you know that too. Anything else?
Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks
Ken.
for your time, guys.
Thank you.
Hancock Health.
Thank you for having us. My name is Nancy Davis. I'm the Executive Director of the Hancock Health Foundation, and this is Amanda Everidge, the Executive Director over our Counseling and Connection Center. So actually, I'll turn it over to Amanda because she knows everything you need to know.
Yeah. So, I'm gonna take a little cheat sheet. I wrote down my notes are things that didn't quite make it on the list, but, so we do quite a bit at the Connection Center in our Hancock Counseling Office. With the generous donations and partnerships and collaborative agreements that we have with all of our community partners. We've been able to do our best to fill some gaps and barriers in treatment and service. So some of the things that we did in 2024, the Connection Center assisted 1,383 individuals, either by phone or in person. So the Connection Center is a team of social workers by background in trade who essentially we do we call it a social determinants needs assessment. So we look at what is creating barrier in your life or making things difficult for you right now. It might be mental health or addiction treatment services. It might be housing, transportation, shelter. I just got out of jail and I need a bicycle because I need to be able to get to probation. It could be food, clothing, a number of things, anything that impacts their ability to live well. And our individuals do not have to be a patient of Hancock Health. We see anybody for any reason. We kind of have a no wrong door policy. If we don't know the resource, we'll find it, or we'll find someone who does. So a lot of great support there. We have our mobile response team transitioned to Hancock Health in July of last year. So mobile response team is our group of peer recovery specialists and social workers that go out into the field, and we are able to respond in support with law enforcement, or sometimes individuals call us in a mental health crisis, and we're able to even prevent law enforcement from having to go out. And so we had, just from July to the end of the year, 91 calls to the mobile response team. We got it in July. It was previously ran by community Fairbanks Mental Health Treatment Centers, so local Gallagher office. So they county terminated their contract, asked Hancock to pick it up. It was either lose that team or pick it up. So that's what we did, and I learned how to run a crisis team. So that's one of the things that we do there. We are able to, one of the unique pieces that we've been able to do, thanks to many of our partnerships, is that mobile response team. If we have someone who's in a mental health crisis, substance use crisis, and they need to go to treatment, they need to go to a hospitalization for acute stabilization, as long as it is safe to do so, very few instances, I think honestly one since we've gotten the team, our mobile response team will transport them to treatment. So that helps keep our ambulances in service for true medical emergencies. It keeps our law enforcement in Hancock County to provide services to our community and to be able to stay here and keep us safe, rather than them having to go and sit 4 hours for a crisis assessment with somebody in Indianapolis. We're starting to track where we receive those calls from. One of the challenges in our space, and for Center Township specific activities, it's hard. We don't bill for our service. We do not require that somebody tell us where they live, because we don't want to be a barrier to their treatment. We try to get a name and a phone number at minimum, but we often, unless they're a patient of Hancock Health, if someone chooses to not share their address, then we don't force it. We will still help somebody the best we can. So unfortunately, for a lot of things, I won't be able to break that down specific. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say that now. We have a justice team that served 260 individuals within the various intersects of the justice system. So we have a team that goes into the jail, and much like if you're in the hospital, you have a discharge planner that helps make sure that you get home safely. We have a team that goes into the jail and works with individuals to make sure that they have a place to go when they get out of incarceration safely. We know that typically if you have that level of support and a safe and thought out plan, the chances of reoffense or running yourself back into some trouble immediately is significantly reduced. So our team helps with a variety of things to assist in that transition. Our goal is that if they're receiving mental health treatment in the jail, that when they come out, they have an appointment. If it's not with us, they have an appointment with the appropriate provider. If you're arrested, fun fact, if you're arrested in July in flip-flops, t-shirt and shorts, but you're released in February when there's 3 inches of snow on the ground, you get released in t-shirt, flip-flops and shorts. So our team ensures that when they leave the jail, they have a safe way to get wherever they need to go, and appropriate attire to get to their next step. So again, it just, rather than just being, you serve your time, you get out, having that support person there, and then we help follow along after if they need in that journey. There are times we've helped people get back. It's impressive how many people are arrested in Hancock County that aren't from Hancock County or even from the state of Indiana. So we do a lot of taking them to Greyhound bus stop to help make sure that we can get them where they need to go. Helps improve our public safety as well as get individuals the support that they need. Our general navigators served just over 1,000 individuals with the various things that I had mentioned earlier. I'm the coordinator for our critical incident stress management team. So what that means is that I have a team, I think we have 64 certified and trained individuals to respond to traumatic events and support first responders and healthcare providers in processing the event that they've experienced. It helps improve the ability to return to work in a healthier manner. It helps individuals get connected into treatment if they need a little more extra care. And by taking care of our first responders, they're able to better take care of our community. So with that, we had 39 debriefings in 2024. 217 individuals participated within those 39 events. So those, we probably had far more than 39 in Hancock County, but those are the ones that the number that we responded to. And we respond to a variety of things because trauma is different for everybody. It means something different. We'll meet with someone one-on-one if they have an experience. We'll meet with a group of 50 people if they need. So you always have a behavioral health provider and then also peers. So I have trained firefighters, I have law enforcement, nurses, I have nonprofit leaders. We've expanded it out and we've also responded to a couple of other events that are not typical in other communities. We had a suicide death that impacted one of our local businesses pretty significantly. Typically those businesses would just be like, something, man, you just have to deal with it and figure it out. But our team responded to them as well. We respond to families of those that are affected. If we have law enforcement, depending on the event, we do debriefings for the spouses and the partners and significant others or the family of those first responders so that they too can move forward in a healthy way. We trained 524 individuals in QPR, which is suicide prevention training. It's 2 hours, kind of like CPR, but for mental health. So we are currently, I think we're closer to like 3,500 total since we started training individuals in Hancock County in 2018. We'll train anyone that'll listen. We go to church groups. We trained this year alone. I think already this year we've trained DCS. We trained the Landing Place. We trained Wellspring Center over at Brandywine. So our professionals, our lay community members, and I trained the law enforcement. So pretty proud of those pieces. And we were a guest, or I guess we were guest presenters at multiple conferences last year. And we presented, Sheriff Burkhart and I presented at the NAMI Criminal Justice Conference, at which time we received the Criminal Justice Advocacy Award for the state of Indiana for the year. We had representation at the first ever Indy Mavens Women's Mental Health Summit. So that's kind of exciting too. Really starting to be recognized for all the great work that's done out here in Hancock County. A couple of other pieces. I think one thing that I will speak to that probably does speak more directly to Center Township. We are a safe place for anybody, for any reason, right? We have a population of individuals who don't have housing, who don't have a place to go, who don't have family support. So much like mental health partners, we too have personal care bags. We passed out 150 of those last year, a majority of those being either to individuals leaving incarceration or individuals coming in saying, I need help. I need just some basic needs. We pretty much provide, I was kind of like comparing what we do. We pretty much provide the same things. I think the only difference, we do the non-alcohol based sanitizer. And they have sanitizer wipes that are alcohol free. So we utilize those so that people can also stay clean. We have food and snacks in our waiting room. We have air conditioning in the summer. We have heat in the winter. Individuals are welcome into our space. It's limited, right? Because you have to be mindful, but we give up to an hour at a time. They come in, they do have to meet with the navigator. So we have to be working on stuff too, improving ourselves, but they're able to charge their phone, get snacks, water. In the winter, we provide hat, gloves, scarves, hot hand packs, the little ones as well as the larger ones. The silver blankets that you see people get at various different things. We have those in the winter time for folks that are outside and when it gets cold. And then if they're not able to go in the summertime, we usually send extra water in their little bag. And we also now have cooling rags that we provide because it gets hot. And just like you want to stay safe in the winter, we want them to stay safe in the summer. So we can't necessarily fix it for every patient who is unhoused. We don't put them up in hotels or anything like that, but we can try to keep them as safe as they can be outside until we can try to get them back on their feet if at all possible. So that, I would say those pieces are Center Township because they walk in off the streets. Most of them literally walk in. I don't know if any of them have cars right now. Several of them have bikes. We've taken to Facebook a couple of times and said, hey, anyone willing to donate a bike? Anybody have some kids and no longer want to ride their bicycle? Then we have a couple of husbands that fix them up, and so then people are able to get to where they need to go. So we've started, I guess, got into the bike business as well here as of late. So those are some of the things that we do that significantly improve the quality of life for those that live in Center Township. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff, but I'll stop because I could go on for hours.
So I know from one of our prior presenters that there have been some changes in the county with regards to, I guess, accessibility to temperature resistant locations. So where they could go during the day, usually it was getting food and they can hang out throughout the rest of the day.
Yes.
Since that is only now restricted to serving times for the most part, have you guys noticed an uptick in the past 4 or 5 months of folks coming in for the walk-ins?
I don't know that I would, maybe slightly,
Okay.
but not necessarily. Many of the individuals that we service also frequent some of those other locations, right? The landing place, the soup kitchen. Many of the clients utilize multiple different providers. So we've been doing this for quite some time. I think, we see they come to us, it usually is like right when we open, because it's been all night. So it's usually early in the morning. I get some high protein snack bar, some water, charge their phone, and then able to go. And when others open and when it's mealtime and whatnot. So.
And what are your typical hours?
We're open, the Connection Center's open at 8:30 to 4:30 Monday through Thursday, and then 8 to 4 on Fridays.
I'm not sure how fully it is, but a potential new place, if you guys ever had a new place, is there more room for a waiting area that your small waiting room is? Is that anything that's mindful?
It's a different, so we will be moving here
Okay.
soon. Yeah, it's actually being done and it's right around the corner.
Right.
The waiting room is slightly different. Not necessarily bigger, but there is certainly individuals will still be welcome. It's my only sadness is that it's not where we're at currently because that location is so much more accessible. I mean, it's not like so much more accessible, but it is. Like
Are there sidewalks to your area?
there is not.
I didn't think there was. With
No. Mm-mm. Hopefully one day, maybe. And there are sidewalks all the way like up 9, but yeah, from 9.
Right.
100 yards, they would have to walk. They can cut through the parking lots.
Trailhead would be from Broadway,
Mhm,
so.
which would be even further.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, but we're doing a lot of work now with Aspire Indiana, is our newly designated community mental health center. Gallifiew has been working toward divesting from our community. They served Hancock County for 45 years. There will be a crisis stabilization and psychiatric urgent care opening in Noblesville that our residents would have access to. Our mobile response team and groups like My Navigators we may be utilizing resources like that for individuals who have a
So I actually do, mental health commitment work. So I work with a lot of patients who are going through that process in their family, in the hospitals. So in terms of where we are most often transporting folks to, where would you say are like our top 3 locations that we typically are transporting folks out of from here to?
Yeah, I would say, we have our top 3 probably Valley Vista. They are usually one of the easier providers for us to work with, and get folks directly in. So our goal is always so not just take them to get an assessment, but we do the assessment. We already know it's appropriate. We want a bed. So we have the bed secured before we leave. So Valley Vista, we utilize St. Vincent quite a bit. And then probably honestly, it's going to either Recovery Centers of America or like a Dove House. But depending on if the individual needs detox.
You answered my follow-up question is how often is there a bed available for the individual when you get there?
Oh yeah, we make sure there's a bed before.
That's wonderful.
Because if you don't, how frustrated, that's why people don't trust our system, right? They need help, they want help, they're ready to get help. They go, they think they're appropriate. They even have the insurance, right? They're ready to take a week off work. And the provider says, we're full, but I'm not going to find you a place to go. Or I'm sorry, we don't think you're appropriate. You know, you're not like going to kill yourself right now. So you just try outpatient, which will be 8 weeks. If they're left to connect it on their own, they may not connect at all.
And then in terms of the folks that are to get in, they get a bed, do you see a lot of kind of, I don't want to say recidivism, because that's the wrong term for this, but essentially like repeat visitors after that? Or is it usually you get them in the crisis, you get them the help they need, and then that's gotten them that stabilization?
Yeah, so I mean, it varies. I would say those that we get into stabilization and then they come back because there's been a setback, and they're needing hospitalized again. I mean, it doesn't happen a ton, but it does. We do see several people come back because we then offer peer recovery coaching ongoing. We have 3 level 2 state certified peer recovery specialists who meet one-on-one. They work a recovery plan, they work relapse prevention, and they walk that journey with them. Go to the NA, we go to the AA, we hold them accountable, we provide that support, and they get that from somebody that has that experience, but also who is certified and has additional training to help kind of keep it all moving forward in the appropriately therapeutic way. And then a lot of them, our goal is to also make sure that they're getting into treatment. Detox is the easy part, I always tell people. Going in, which is never easy, right? That's the worst part, they think, until you're sober. And then it's like, oh crap, what am I going to do? So we often not only just get them dropped off, many of our clients actually work with a peer recovery specialist as part of the care team during inpatient stabilization if they want.
And then do you all have any role when folks either do voluntary treatment or on a temporary or regular commitment basis when they're transition to outpatient status? Do you all help with, does that support, I assume, carry over for that as well?
Yep. Our goal, making sure they have a good discharge plan, because I also we hear a lot, they didn't give me anything, they just told me to call my therapist, so I don't have a therapist. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good questions.
So I've always appreciated everything that the Connection Center has always done. They were there for us in many different situations. I think one of the concerns that we have would go back into where the funding, if we were to provide any, would go. So would you like to address that or talk about that?
I would love to.
Okay.
It actually all goes directly into our operations. We have a couple of different places that I utilize funding like this. We have a grants and scholarships. Again, similar to how Mental Health Partners does, we pay for mental health treatment for individuals who are struggling. Not just those who are uninsured, but let's say you have a $15,000 deductible and, let's say it's you and I can't afford $150 out of pocket every month. Patients do have to pay some. Everyone does, but it's what we can. So depending on how much the money is, that goes either directly into our scholarship fund. We usually go through around $10,000 a year. We use a variety of providers, local and just in the surrounding area, because some like telehealth may be appropriate and they may be located in Indianapolis, but we have agreements for everyone that we do. Or putting it into things like our transportation or our trainings even. So I have a training budget. You know, we sponsor the CIT training, which is a crisis intervention team training, where we train law enforcement first responders. 40 hours, it's a 40-hour week on mental health. We do several others, the ACE interface, the QPR, that allows us, we've never charged for any of that. We're one of the only counties that doesn't charge our first responders for CIT. I use those funds. I have an education fund where if, well, for example, I'll say Lieutenant Booker here at Greenfield Fire Department just joined our critical incident stress management team as a firefighter peer. It's $475 to train each individual in the critical incident stress management. And it takes a team of 60 to 80 people to respond, because you have to do it within like 72 hours of the event. It didn't cost the city of Greenfield anything, because if I said I need 20 firefighters and 15 police officers, and it's going to cost up $475 a piece, and then, oh, also, I'm going to need them within 72 hours of an event, we're not going to have peers. So funds like this allow us to do things like that, to ensure that we have team response, but it doesn't negatively impact the community.
So you actually moved something else. I just want to give everybody else a chance to ask questions. So in the post-COVID world, obviously we've seen a pretty big expansion of the telehealth availability for patients. And so one thing I know, a couple of counties have tried to do almost kind of partnerships with other institutions. I know iHealth is a big player in that field. Does your group kind of have any, I guess, like sister partners or county partners throughout the state, where if, you know, we don't have any folks in telehealth that are physical health that are available here, we've got these telehealth partners in ABC location?
Our job is, we are in the business of relationships. It is extremely rare that if someone has a need, particularly for mental health or addiction treatment, that we're not able to make that connection. It isn't always in Hancock County, but it is rare that we're not. Typically, the reasons we are not able to make the connection is because the parameters were given or the expectations of the individual, right? Like, well, I need a female therapist that I can walk to, and I can only do sessions at 8:30 on Thursday nights. That happens. So we're probably not going to find that. But yeah, it is rare that we're not able to find for someone that's burned. I mean, some people, we just burn bridges sometimes when we're not feeling well.
And then my last question would just be the same thing that I asked Kim, would just be if there's products or items that you typically look for to be donated, if you could just give those to.
Oh yeah, for sure. And we do a couple of drives each year. I think we usually do one like going into winter, that allows us to do the scarves, the hats, the gloves, and all those pieces. And then we get ready for summer as well. I feel like there was, there have been a few, we drop boxes all over the county. So we'll definitely send. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Appreciate your time.
Stay and listen to budget stuff.
Yeah. I'd love to.
Corey, it's time to wake up.
All right, well, supposed to be out of here in about 10 minutes, but
Go quick.
I'll let them. Be a little late for me. But anyways, so I think you guys all have a packet of some of the preliminary budget things in front of you. So I was just gonna kind of run through that, as far as updates to the budget goes, those kinds of things. And then if you guys have questions, happy to answer those. But like I said, I'm just gonna touch on some of the big ticket items, because there are several minor adjustments we have to budget items, but I think the things that are gonna be like updates as opposed to what the budget is for this year, what I want to focus on. But on the first page, so page 1 is where you've got your budget summary. And what this page is the final form of your budget and gateway, is what it's called a Form 4B. And it really it's an 18-month rolling budget. And that's basically how the DLGF calculates if you can afford your budget or not. So as long as, in column L, you'll see calculated year-end cash as of 12/31/2026. As long as you have any amount of dollars in there, they'll approve your budget. So they'll let you spend every single dollar you have if that's what you want to do. But a couple of things I just want to point out on this page is kind of just our actual cash position, where we're going with this budget, with what we've already kind of known is out there. I'll start with column A, and you'll notice there's almost about $1.45 million or so in about cash reserves as of June 30th of this year. Column F is our estimate, and I say estimate is the DLGF estimate as of 12/31/2025. And I say that because they assume you're going to spend every single dollar that you've appropriated or encumbered. That is not a realistic standpoint. But nonetheless, right, we want to make sure we assume that. And so if that's how the DLGF's calculated, that's how I want to calculate it. But anyways, column F, you see that year-end cash. So we're going to spend down about half of the cash reserves. And there is a reason for that, right? We just purchased a building. Okay. So that's a huge chunk, right? There's $500,000 right there. Another reason, right, is that we had $100,000 for cemetery care that we ended up not receiving an extension of services appeal for. So we decided to keep that in there because we wanted to do a bunch of stuff at the cemeteries and understood, yes, we're going to use some of those cash reserves. So again, that's kind of the other big piece of why we're spending down. And then you can kind of just from there compare your revenues to expenditures, right? We have a little bit more of appropriations than we do revenues coming in, not by a lot. And you can kind of see that in column J and K, where we're looking at the 26 budget amounts. Because we're not making huge adjustments really overall to the budget and or the revenue streams here. So that is kind of right, same ballpark, right, as far as revenues versus expenditures go for 26 as we have in 25. So that's kind of what we're seeing here. And with SB1 and all of everything that's going on, I think you guys have done a really good job in making sure that you're using that money and putting it back to use for these township residents. Because otherwise, be transferring some of that over to the county or the city or really whoever you choose to work with, if we didn't have enough capital projects as well. But right, that's kind of why one of the reasons I know we decided this is the avenue we're going down. Let's put these dollars to work and give back to the taxpayers. So that's all I really wanted to touch on this page. There's a bunch of other information for you guys to look at if you're just curious on maybe how things would shake out. But actually, one more thing I do want to mention. I said look at column J and K where we compare the revenues to expenditures. Historically, there's always been a supplemental lit distribution as well. I never count on that for when I do budgeting. So even though it looks like, hey, we're $93,000 upside down, in fact that we're $93,000 short in our revenues compared to our appropriations, it'll probably be about a $50,000, $30,000, $40,000 supplemental lit distribution that should shrink that even further. So it's and again, you're not going to likely spend your entire budgets. So that's another piece of this whole thing. So Just wanted to mention that, right? It's okay to have a budgeted cash outflow as long as we understand we may use the cash if we spend the entire budget. And you guys are in a position where that is okay.
And the CB losses, that's in column H, those are the circuit breaker losses.
Those are the circuit breaker losses, which they're gonna likely go up for next year. And those numbers also assume, and we'll have this discussion too, you guys go for an extension of services appeal again for the cemeteries. Now, it's just kind of an in and an out again, right? If we don't get the extension of services appeal, this time we will have to reduce our cemetery care budget. We don't really have a choice. But nonetheless, that's still in here in case you guys wanted to go for that again. So just wanted to mention that too.
So J and K are the, I think you said this before, make sure I heard right, the DLDF estimates for the budget in 26.
So the budget, as far as the appropriations go, right, that's what we compile. The revenues is what I do, is I just try to make sure that I maximize it.
Okay.
But yeah, if we were submitting the budget today, yes, this is what the DLGF would see as far as revenues and appropriations go. Yes. Any questions, or I'll move on to what we can more so control, which is the appropriations in Form 1. So page 2, this is the general funds budget, so the township general fund. By far the biggest update is just kind of reallocating how we have wages and staffing of the township. And Thomas, you might be able to explain exactly what we'd like to see better than I can.
So in our personal services category, the first top section, this basically keeps to what we have already have done, reallocated on salary, where we have moved the deputy trustees allocation and then combined the clerical assistant allocation all into one category to be able to provide longer hours into the office. And so there's, as you see, 100% changes on there. That also, or that is reducing that from the budget, but then it's also adding that back into the one line, so we don't have to go back to it in salary ordinances and change it later. So that individual did not get a 90% on the line item. Instead, they've actually had that all this time. It's just we're now doing it correctly. And then that's really the only change on that. And this is supposed to be introductionary.
Yes.
We're going to go through all of this in great detail as our one-on-one as we meet. So it's ready to get into the weeds on every individual thing. We talk about that and then we can keep going. But sure.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I just want to make sure that you could explain that better. And we did include a cost of living adjustment for staff. So there's nothing necessarily proposed for the trustee and there's nothing necessarily proposed for the board. But oh wait, did we do the board? Okay,
Yeah.
Sorry, we did do the board.
So county has estimated their increases for their staff at 4%. Cost of living, I find it's like 2.
Per the 2025 Social Security adjustment, it was 2.5. Right now, they're estimating 2.6 for 2026.
So I believe from the early conversations that the city or the county councils had, and that's not what we have to follow, but that's in the historical past. That's what we've kind of followed, was what the county was doing as for raises. They're talking about a 4%. And so that's what is reflected for our employees. And then the same thing with the board.
Okay.
Are we allowed to not raise ours? Or
Correct.
Yeah, you could say. You
do whatever you
yeah,
want.
You can, yeah, it's your budget. You can do what you want. Again, I was just trying to be consistent with staff and, things that we're adjusting, so.
well, not a signal to the rest of the board, but I'm opposed to us raising our payment. It's fine with me. So,
You don't want your extra $150
Yeah.
total.
well, that's 400. So
That's total.
Total,
So
yeah,
divide that
so-
by 3.
Yeah, so
You don't want your-
no, the extra, the $50 can stay.
Yeah, so yeah, again, if that's something you guys want to see removed out of there, happy to do so.
And this is when we go through our own conversations and we make the changes, and then we come back in September with a new form and what we would like to actually propose before September, I should say.
Yes, that's what. Yeah. All right, so I'll move on here. There's several other supplies and service lines that are adjusted. Those are really just adjusted either based on current bills that we know are out there, trends we're seeing, some inflationary adjustments. So you'll kind of see those. The bigger change will be down at the bottom for capital outlays. I did provide about $35,000 next year for just general furnishings of the building. I know you may have some of that already done this year, depending on where you guys are in that process. But nonetheless, there's an additional 35,000 and anything in those capital outlays, right? You can, even though we've got the individual lines budget, you can, again, right, we can move freely between those lines. It just has to be capital, right? That's so you really have an overall capital budget of about $80,000 next year for projects you'd like to do. And again, that could be cemeteries, could be your facilities, could be whatever.
Right. So that's the big thing on what we've done historically in the past is capital outlays. It's kind of been our overflow on any kind of cemetery work that we do. So the idea behind, and we will go more in detail regarding the additional service for the cemeteries at a later time. The capital outlays has been in our past where we've been able to pull from money from. This year, that money was actually inside cemetery care, so we've not had to pull from the capital outlays projects.
Because we're gonna need additional capital outlays, I think, for our new office.
Right, and that's where it's budgeted in now, but, you know, we're gonna be moving in with, we're not gonna need many things right away.
Right.
So,
Yeah, there is 80,000 total. How you guys want to ultimately use it, we can judge it around. Yes.
right.
Yeah. Questions there outside of that? Township assistance, again, the biggest change here is the fact that we just are kind of reallocating how we have staffing and wages set up. Again, and I did get rid of all this. I thought I got rid of them all, which this is the second time this happened. I feel like my server is not syncing properly on occasion.
Yep.
I fixed it on the general fund, but for some reason they
Yep.
didn't fix. But anyway, yeah, so I got rid of those trustee proposed already for you, Thomas.
So,
Yeah. It's just as wage reallocation like it does on the general fund now. But again, we're looking at the 4% as far as wage adjustments goes to the casework investigators.
so to talk more about the township assistance side, it is not 4% on the caseworker. We've actually this would be proposing of adding a new role into our township assistance side with the increase of numbers that we've been seeing. We've added a new line item for hiring a new person, new personnel that would be our caseworker. So this person, it's this proposed area where I'll be coming to you with a job description and items like that. So that is going to be added into the personal care side of things. So yeah, keep going.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, other things were just kind of some updates for, and I think, Thomas, one of the reasons you see these supply adjustments is that we're just really trying to allocate more so. Is it really township assistance? Then we're going to allocate it to township assistance as opposed to having it in the general fund. Services, not a lot of updates here. I think there's a new line that we had for community outreach. So that's kind of the only change I see there. And then as a starting point for all of the service contracts, I've just left it the same as 2025. Obviously, we just had a couple presentations here, but really I'm going to leave it up to you guys as the board and trustee to let me know what we'd like to see there. The only thing I would say is let's try to just make sure the bottom line is right around this figure that we have in here because I know it works. So that's all I would ask there. We did have an adjustment to shelter too, just based on some needs. So some other minor adjustments to the township assistance amounts that you guys provide. There were some updates, and that's just based on needs, I think, that Thomas is saying.
And for the service partners, I assume when we go to review this, we'll get the documentation you've requested from them or in some, either the direct application or some summary.
If we have any to be given, yeah.
And then we're not sure if we want to, were you satisfied with that answer on how the money's held from?
You know, the only follow-up I had was the endowment. I think that we just have to ensure in the contract, you know, so a receipt or something of how we can ensure that that's not ever going to go like that.
Well, I think she did answer the question because she used the word operations. Endowment's different.
So then my other question would have been, should we not be contracting with Community Health Foundation or the foundation? Should it actually be its own line, or do they have their own budget?
Well, that, one of the questions I have, if you choose to engage with them, is who exactly is it that we are engaging here? Because she was using the word connection or whatever it's called. Is that separate or is it Hancock Health?
I think in the very beginning, if the foundation had started the Connection Center Health 365, I would assume by now it's so large that they have probably separated themselves. And that's where I think that if we do anything, the service agreement would fall.
To them,
That
yes.
is correct.
I would agree with that.
Because we cut out Hancock Health Foundation.
We have in the past, yes, and there were some issues with where the money was going, that's where we decided to cut off.
Is that the foundation part?
You chose, yeah. It was with the Hancock, yes, the Health Foundation. Because at that time, that's what, like you said, that's where this all started. This Healthy 365 is kind of what it started out as, but it was just a name. It was just a name of something the hospital foundation is actually doing. I don't get the impression that's the case now, but we need to ask that question probably. What is the name of the organization that might be requesting to provide services?
Because we could, if we did decide to do something like that, we could make that that they can't spend that.
We did. It didn't happen, but we did. So it would just be a service contract for operation, for whatever service.
And we can't dictate on what it's.
She spoke about about 900 different services. That's kind of, it'd be services.
Yeah, right.
But we could put in the contract, we want to see where we want a receipt of the account it's deposited in if there's concern that it's.
Certainly, if you have that issue, you could put something in there that requires it as part of the contract.
Yep. Parks and Rec, there's no update to the budget. It's the same as we've had in the past. Currently, there's no revenue stream for it. So we're kind of just using the cash reserves that are in there, and we can do that, I believe, for maybe another. We've got another 4 or 5 years that we could do that before we have to either say we need a revenue source here or we need to cut what we're doing. But wanted to mention that as far as the fund.
And we're moving the Boys and Girls Club to Township assistance.
It's actually been like that for the last 2 budget sessions, so it's just been missed on that.
Attachment A is our 3-year growth appeal. So they did just release the figures for that. You guys qualify once again, which is great. So it'll end up being around $24,129 that will have an additional levy for next year just from the growth appeal. We need to have a use for that. And I think we have a really easy one here in the fact that we have a new position in township assistance. So that's as easy as the argument can get as far as a need for it. But that is kind of what I'm planning on presenting as far as the need for the appeal. And it is included in here. So again, the only thing that I don't have any figures on or anything, because it's really a request of an argument that we need, it would be for that extension of services appeal for the cemeteries. We spent some time, working on that last year, got denied. Talked with Miranda Busey, who's one of the head folks of the DLGF, just to see if she could give me any insight as to why. She didn't really give, she legally, I guess, cannot give us basically all of the information we need to know of why it was denied. But she also said, it's not a zero chance that it could go again, like you're just gonna get, we just have to, I guess, reformulate our argument and specifically say, hey, we have a legal responsibility, which I think is, which you did.
Many times.
Um,
So regarding the cemetery, I mean, we would get questions regarding, well, why doesn't the city, provide this care to the cemetery? Well, it's outside the city limits. Well, why doesn't the county? Because they're not obligated to do it. It's our job. I mean, these were the questions that the decision makers were asking us, and it's like, don't you know? No, they don't. No.
As a question for when we file that next year. This is a question for you, John. Can we staple a court case that says that falls in is there a court case in addition to the statute that we could try to find that
I'm
says?
sure there probably is somewhere. I'd have to look.
Because I know we talked about this, that despite quoting the statute that says it is our responsibility. So whatever we can add an additional legal authority, if we're assuming we're doing the appeal, apparently that's what is needed, it needed in some part to make it clear. But one would assume quoting the statute is enough, but.
And what really was disheartening about it too, is because this year we really don't have the argument that we've added another cemetery, whereas last year we added another cemetery. One was gifted to us from a trust. And so I really thought that this would be a no-brainer. Why do you need this increase? Well, we've just added a 3-acre cemetery to our rolls. And so it's not necessarily going to be something that we don't quote back to, but it was a very frustrating time.
I think if we want to approach it and go for it again, what we need to do is set up a definitive timeline, as best we can at least, of when these cemeteries came to be under township property. I don't know if we have that.
No.
Yeah, so, or maybe at least the newer ones that have come in, when did those come in? Because I think it's easy to show, hey, going back to, pick the date of when the cemetery was acquired. What were we spending on taking care of the cemetery? And the answer is probably close to nothing. And so I think that's gonna be maybe as far as showing like, this is a new service. It didn't exist. We weren't doing it. We don't have any money to take care of it. If you deny us again, that's fine. But then it's maybe we make a scene, for lack of a better word. But
And have we already fully allocated and paid for the ossuary?
No.
Okay. So, so that could be also included as a new service, right?
Right.
It's like, okay.
the what?
Ossuary, it's a
Oh,
green for remains, burial.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
But it's true.
That is a totally new service.
That has not been installed yet. So you're right.
I was allowed to include that.
Yeah. So I have to take off here in just a minute. The one thing I want to touch on before I leave, though, is the fact that there is this new requirement, this 30%, right, cash balances left over that aren't allocated or dedicated to capital improvements must be transferred to this new township infrastructure road fund.
I would see we're gonna have.
Well, and I've done it, we've worked the budget and the capital improvement plans where you won't be transferring anything. So that's kind of the other handout you guys have here. This again is a DLGF template. It's very simple. Again, there's still very little guidance on right, who has the authority to tell us that this isn't an appropriate, right, there's nothing. So, now you guys are in a situation where you don't have to come up with some exhaustive list of anything and every single possible capital improvement need, because we just did one, right? We just did a big capital project and the money was spent. Now I have other townships that need to come up with, $5 million capital improvement plan. So we're working through that. But again, with everything that you guys have just done, you've really spent down the cash balances from a DLGF budgeting and cash flow perspective. I want to mention that too. It's not like you're out of cash. They're no longer in your quote unrestricted funds. Sure. You still have plenty of capital reserves. They're just now in quote restricted funds. And we can always kind of manage our property taxes and cash so that we know we'll always be okay. But again, this is just a simple plan. I think the second to last page here was again, these are just very generic amounts and descriptions I put in here. Thomas, I don't know if you've got more specific things that we can, yeah, but really we need to end up with we only need about $50,000 capital expenditures for the next 3 years, so 26 through 29, in order to make sure we're not transferring anything. So
It's easy, and we'll talk about these in person, $10,000 for Austin Prairie. We're talking about, remodel or having, the stucco redone on the building. If we're talking about replacing windows, and now we're done with what the requirement is needed. So we'll talk about those. We'll put that in the plan and we'll have that published. It has to be publicized and submitted to the state by September 30th.
Yes.
So that will have to happen at our next meeting, that we will have that ready for.
Yeah.
Is there any publication?
No, there's no publication requirements. More or less, the thought is during the budget process, this should be addressed. It doesn't actually say you have to do it at the same meeting or anything, but you do have to have a public hearing specifically on this. So technically separate from the budgets, you have to do public hearings. So there's no notification requirements.
Public hearing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
He
that's,
says public hearing.
Yeah.
okay. Can I ask a question on the scheduling? So there, and I don't know this yet, so I will let you know as soon as I do.
Oh.
There is a chance I have to be in Wisconsin on the 9th. Obviously this is, 2 months out.
In Wisconsin.
Maybe we'll see each other.
Yeah.
So as soon as I know, I will let the group know. So there is a chance that I may either need to participate virtually, or if you want me here in person. And I have.
Yes, I will be on the same potentially.
So,
Be way on as far as moving dates.
Well,
that's why I'm bringing it up now, because I'm assuming we needed to.
so we've already submitted the dates
Yep.
for this.
We can always change.
We can change.
Oh, yeah, there's nothing, even though we've done the pre-budget worksheet and all that stuff,
Okay.
it doesn't mean anything.
All right.
You can just, it's more for the DLGS plan.
That was why I wanted to bring it up now in
Yeah.
case we did need to.
But we do have virtual
Yeah.
option available.
The only requirement as far as timing is 10-day notification for your public hearing and 10 days before the adoption meeting, and adoption has to be done by November 1 or whatever. It's, yeah.
Okay.
As soon as I
If
know.
you guys don't mind.
Yep.
Yeah, all right.
Corby, did you get this next form? It should be in your packet.
Okay.
So the next thing in your guys' packet was a letter from the county auditor. And it was telling us about the change of the upcoming lit distributions. So this will be something that we're still working out on how that's going to go. This might be something that we have to go to the county council to ask how they're going to distribute the lit. Whereas we've always had a set amount that's been distributed to us every month. And that might change. So of how they distribute that, or if they distribute that at all.
Yeah, the whole lit laws in general they're all changing, right? Cities and towns can now implement their own, and it's being much more locally collected and retained essentially. So that's some of the big updates. And yeah, there will be changes, but as far as how it impacts, it's still difficult to know.
I could see we might have a problem there.
So we'll have to wait to see. Thanks, Corby.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can see problems there.
Is it a fairly routine notice or is there something? Okay,
There was change in the law that said that basically they can, the county council can distribute that as they wish. And so,
And I think it is a routine notice now because of that alteration. I suspect there were others that got the same notice.
everybody got that notice. Every tax got that.
So there is, I've had a board where they could say your lit goes to 0.
Actually, I think that has been the case all along, frankly. If they wanted to, they could have reallocated to anybody or anywhere, but that's neither here nor there. They didn't. Now they might.
My comments. Okay. I'm sure we don't have you anywhere on here.
Oh, that's just terrible. That's all right. I don't have anything anyway.
Okay, all right, well. Thoughts?
So for the update, community service agreements, so the signed service agreements that have been allocated for signed and paid out has been Meals on Wheels, Love Inc., Greenfield Parks, and the Kenneth Butler Soup Kitchen. I'm still waiting to have a conversation with Boys and Girls Club once their executive director gets his seat warm enough, so to speak. Greenfield Parks, we did, I had a conversation. So in the past, while it's not required of how they allocate the money, they've always kind of done a sponsorship for the movies in the parks, and they had actually had requests for that. And in further conversation, when I look at service contracts, it is an extension of the service that we are to provide constitutionally. So what does that mean of what are we not having to do? We're not having backpacks and stuff. We're not doing those types of services, right? Well, me playing a movie in a park isn't necessarily something I'm required to do, except for having park service is what we don't have. We don't have a park. And so it's contracting with Greenfield Parks to provide Center Township residents a place to enjoy a recreational place to go is. And so that's been the argument of keeping this service agreement going. To further that of what best items can we do or can our dollars go to for programs that the Parks Department is doing, we've actually came up with a different plan. And that is actually our logo will be installed on the bikes there that are used for transportation around the city. So the Parks Department has these bikes that are free to rent. And they've actually been able to track these bikes, and they've been transportation for a lot to work. And so that's definitely within the purview of the trustee's office is transportation. And so by having our name out there in another prominent location, I think that this is going to be a good investment for us. And so we went ahead and signed the service agreement. And that's going to, and just the numbers that they threw out, we're going to be sponsoring 5 bikes. There's a total of 17 bikes. 5 of them have already been sponsored by Hancock Health. The others have not been sponsored. I would like to look at increasing our 5 bikes going forward. If not for this year, even reallocating some of the money we have budgeted already that's not being utilized. The cost of sponsoring the bike is $550 per bike. And at the end of the year, that pays for tune-up. So all the bikes go to Family Bike Chain for its service. The bikes are removed before the Riley Day Festival. And they go be winterized, new tires, new relubricated chains to keep them up going. And so that's like an expense the Parks Department will not have to be expending for their next year's budget. So
we'll look at how much on that then.
So for the 5 bikes, it came out to be like 27 and a half or some, $2,700 for the 5 bikes. Now we have the secondary thing is a winter event that they have downtown with the Santa Claus. And so she'd like to use that other remaining amount for that event downtown. So the total amount that we've allocated for the Parks Department was $5,500 for this year.
The 2,700 just comes out of that. It's not new money spending. It's just,
It is not. No.
we're just instead of paying for the movies, it's gonna go towards bikes. and-
Right. And we can't dictate that it has to go to any one particular program, but that's where they're choosing to.
Okay. And there is no issues with money going to Santa Claus. Okay,
I'm not going to Santa Claus, it's going to a parade.
okay.
That your KT is going.
Okay, so we would sponsor some kind of floater project parade or?
I don't think we're sponsoring anything. It's just that's how they're gonna use our money instead of big.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, so our logo is going to be on a banner that for the wagon rides to Depot Park.
Just a big picture of John's face on it.
It's kind of like the Riley Festival.
Right. So that's an update within the Parks Department. So when we have our own conversations regarding the budget, I'd like to dive into the Parks budget or the Parks and Recreation budget, and then see if there was any additional allocations that we can do for maybe this year or propose for next year as well. I think transportation, that is a huge thing that
Where are those bikes stationed around?
So, good question. There is 3 terminals. I can only name of 2 right now because that's all I think of. Depot Park has these stations. It's not a charging station. These are not electronic or e-bikes, but it's got this mechanism that you have to scan. You got to have an app. You sign out, sign a legal waiver that takes the liability off the city or however, and then it releases that bike, and then you go.
Okay.
So there's one at Depot Park, and then there's one outside of the Patricia Elmore Center. There's a third one. I can see it. I can't place it. But there's a total of 17 bikes. One thing that Elle and I were talking about is what's the life expectancy of these bikes? These are now 3-year-old bikes. They started out with 6, then they added another 6, and then they added the last to a total of 17. On its 3rd year. So some of these bikes are 3 years old, and many miles are driven on them. What is the life expectancy? And she thinks that bike chain is going to be able to keep them up for another 2 years before they'd have to allocate more money for replacing it. But they do not want to add any more. 17 is enough for them to track. Was her exact words. So.
Do we have a legal liability on that for sponsoring bikes?
We're not. Our name might be on it, but we're not doing anything. We're just informationally letting people know about us, right?
Yep.
Right?
All right.
We have given money, no. We have service contracted with them to do a service.
I'm so glad that you said
So that wouldn't relieve us of any legal, if something happens on the
If
bike.
something happens, we're all gonna get sued, yes,
Yeah.
probably. But there is the gap between, and that's the best you could do. I mean, the only other way to do it is just to not have service contracts. So.
He's not wrong by saying anything that we do, we're all getting sued. I mean, I got sued regarding the jail. So, something happened. I don't have any purview on that, yet I still got named in that.
Well, you got served.
I mean, I just,
They're reaching to
I
reach.
just want to know if some wacko doing running around, runs over somebody with one of the bikes that our names on it.
Well, they're certainly gonna go against, we go after the city. I don't care whether the waiver's there or not. They're gonna sue, and
Okay.
then they're gonna throw the waiver up, and then the insurance company's gonna settle.
As I always tell my client, you can sue anybody for anything in this country.
I know. I know it.
Trust Indiana, there's a statement, or our latest amount, $759,062.97, since we've started our investment, and we've netted almost $70,000. Currently, we're still at 4.29% in interest.
Tell us.
Yep.
It's an outstanding thing. I think.
Our ongoing projects still remain. I did actually receive a quote for some signs, just in case we wanted to do any kind of signage at our cemeteries that we've done a lot of work on. And so I'm waiting for a final picture of that before I'll show you guys those. I think that what Chief Horning had talked about with our meeting, or talking about our budget, it's the first budget of the interlocal agreement that we've ever had in the history of our interlocal of 2008, that we've actually been able to have a conversation regarding where the budget's going to go. Now, that was the one conversation. Obviously, the decision-making is going to happen in another conversation, but at least it was the start of a conversation. And so, and I also believe there was some more back and forth regarding reinstating our current interlocal regarding from the recent changes of the fire territories. And so that was a continued conversation, seeing if we can get an increase from fire territory and fire protection. So I think it's still an ongoing project that we've got going on. We talked about the Center Township ossuary. The GPR has been finished inside those. Sorry that you missed that.
That's all right.
Yeah, he's quick at those. We're still waiting on the maps, but the proposed plan for the location of it has come back clear. There is nothing been buried there. Actually, I believe we have pretty much without 100% certainty, we've identified that that is where the church was located after the GPR was moved over. So there was nothing placed there. And so I believe this is going to be a good spot for us whenever we have a chance. I'd love to take you guys out there and show you the exact location so you guys can see what I'm envisioning. So Township assistance in July, we had 25 TA1 applications. We had 6 repeat applications. We spent a total of nearly $6,000 in housing, $800 in utilities, and no cremation or burial assistance. We are about 55% spent in the township assistance category as of the end of July.
Say 55.
55%, yes. And we have had a total of 9 denials in the month of July. I hate that number, but I have to also emphasize that these are the reasons that the denials go is not as simple as, me just telling it to you. It is habitual abuse and their, budgeting, wasteful spending. These would all attribute to a denial. If individuals are not, bettering themselves on their own, then I have a hard time asking the taxpayers to bail them out yet again, especially time and time again coming in and asking for assistance.
Sure, your little bike lady taken care of.
She was here this morning.
I was in here that day.
Uh,
Oh, was she good then?
Yep. She's here almost every day. So we do have a new payee that's signing on for this month. It's a good, I believe this is actually going to be a much easier client. And so the word's spreading about that payee program. Speaking of, I'm actually going to be speaking at the ITA conference regarding payee programs to try to get more townships doing that. There's a little bit further down. I'm going to be asking if anybody's going to be interested in joining me at the ITA conference. So to let me know so I can get the tickets and get us reserved for that. No additional cemetery requests. 2 things I'd like for the consideration of the board and also for John to work on later. I would like to have some kind of printing policy or printing resolution that allows us to set a cost per sheet that we have to print here in the office. We've had a lot of requests for people to come in and have a copy of their application after they've been denied. And they want a copy of everything that's not a township work product. It's things that, it's like their driver's license and it's things that they already have, but yet they want copies of that. I would like to be able to say, we're going to charge you for those copies.
They're just coming in and saying, hey, could you make a copy?
They're unhappy that we denied them. And so they want to have a copy of all of our work. They want to have a copy of their application, things like that. So
The city and the county charge make copies.
Yes, but the problem,
It's what, 10 cents a copy?
Yeah,
Or
probably.
$1 a copy or something like that?
you can, I believe what you can charge is your cost. You can't just pick a number out of the wild blue yonder, You can just go, yep, buck a copy. So that's what we may need to kind of figure out, how much it costs to rent this printer and how much the ink costs, whatever. And kind of figure out how that works. But yeah, I mean, it could be literally 10 cents a copy or what. That's an interesting question about what you just said, though. Why would they not be entitled to a copy of their application? I guess.
Well, first,
Being devil's advocate here.
if we're denying the service.
Yeah, why wouldn't you be entitled to that? Because I want to appeal it.
Is it appealable?
yes. So our decision is they have, I think it's 10 days to write, formally request it to be reviewed by the county commissioners, go to the commissioners court where they use our township assistance standards and guidelines to deem whether or not it was in our, that's why you have to give copies.
That's why I have to give a copy, exactly.
What they know to do with it, they don't, we have put in our end of the bargain on it. So,
Okay.
I mean,
get overturned?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Theoretically, I
Yes.
suppose you can.
So in Hancock County, I don't believe that there's ever been one that's gone through. Gone to the county.
I'm not aware.
That's what I meant, like, have any ever actually happened?
I'm not aware.
Hamilton County, talking with their trustees many times. And from the conversations that we heard when people started actually appealing the decision, the county commissioners had no idea, they don't want to be bothered with it, which they also have a way out of doing it and delegating it to someone else to be managing or to review those things. So it doesn't necessarily have to go in front of three of them. But they have had, in Hamilton County, for instance, they've had many go up there. And yes, it's case by case. It's all about documentation on our end. And that is the only product that we don't give out is our work product. So our case notes and any kind of pertinent, emails back and forth regarding the nonprofits and other things. So
And I don't think this is necessarily any different than court situation where, yes, I can appeal, but I also have to pay to get copies of what I'm appealing. So that, I get what you're saying, and that's where we're gonna probably need to be able to gauge what do we spend so we can kind of get a per page 10 cents, 20, whatever.
I assume we'll have something about, it's free to get an email to you.
Yes.
still paying, but yes. The other thing that I would like, and John's had me forward the information request. I think we need to have a form that we have for those, I don't know what they're technically called, but the Freedom Information Request Act.
Public access request.
So there was one that was done by email, and then we sent out a letter. We never heard back. We believe it was fraud. And so we've had quite a few, actually just recently started checking my spam account again. And I had like 3 of them. And so to not incur legal's cost for, drafting up something, it'd be quicker for me just to send out an email saying, this is the process. If it's actually legitimate, they would fill that out, submit that, and move forward.
Didn't I send you a form?
Yes, but don't we need to actually adopt it?
I think yes, it's probably a good idea, yes, but
Okay.
you as trustee can have your own form.
Okay.
And so I think I'd take a look at that. What I sent you was pretty normal, mundane, but it does give you the information within. You have to make a request. If you make it a certain way, then you have this much time to do things. Another way, this much time. So I think that form sets you up for the best case scenario.
Okay, so I'll have that in for our next meeting's agenda for you guys to review, and then we actually formalize it. So we can use that. I think that's just going to simplify some of the requests that we've been getting that, like I said, every single one of them except for one has been spam. So. So again, ITA registration, anybody that's interested, just let me know. And then as I talked about the job description for the caseworker position, I will have a job description for you guys to review and to adopt if that's what we end up deciding to go to. This job is also kind of the taking over the warming center coordinator. So I met with Jim Peters this last month, and he is going to take a further step away. He still supports everything that we've done, but for personal reasons of health of family, it's time for him to take a further step at the request of his wife, frankly. And so we're going to be able to have somebody else that's in the office to help out those types of coordination on the volunteer schedule, coordination on supplies, things like that. On top of that, this individual is also going to be helping out with the payee program, helping out with coordination of, the social workers, things like that. And so it's quite a bit of what this job description I have. Inside of that budget that you guys have, it is proposed for them to be a 9 to 3:30 hour job. So it still falls into a part-time position. But we'll talk more about those. And so I can get you guys some numbers, but just for general knowledge. As for old business, the Sugar Creek survey has been completed and paid for. So I'm going to go out for bid for the fencing project for Sugar Creek. This should be the last major purchase or project for 2025 for the cemeteries. And then, as I said before, the GPR was complete and we're waiting on the maps for said things. That would be it for the trustee update. On facility update, I hinted at that there was unnecessary permits, in my opinion. Today at 4 p.m., we had the downtown historical review for our sign for the front door, and then the hanging sign as well. That was approved unanimously through their board. So now the other permit that I had to go get is to actually have a sign. So we're still waiting on that permit to be issued. That person was out this week. And so, yeah, so not enough, just one more hurdle we'll have to go through. So that was good news. Mold work will start on the 18th of August. IT work was finished this past Wednesday, so all the cameras have been installed. All the IT runs, electrical or wiring runs have been ran.
Nice, or did that?
No, so the cameras installation and running of the wires was through our IT company.
Okay.
9-Star, which is my next bullet point, 9-Star will be starting, I'm hoping in the upcoming week. We were able to renegotiate the installation cost. And so that has been waived. And all it took was another year of a contract. So I think that pretty much goes hand in hand. And so they're going to install the service, which brings me to my last bullet point. Chief Horning has been notified. And with the mold finished, we are looking at a move date of August 29th. And with that facility, unless anybody has any questions on facilities, and I didn't ask for any questions about trustee update. If I had any.
So you have, has the structural stuff been done already?
No. Okay. Structural things have come back that it's going to take up until past October.
Okay.
On completion. Mold remediation, we would not be able to be inside the facility. Not to mention it's unsafe area, unclean air. Don't want to take the risk for our staff. So once that's completed, the other side of the argument that Fred and I had regarding the construction workers are going to need me let it in throughout the week. Well, when I'm at the firehouse, I can't let anybody in, so I'm going to have staff members going to be there. So might as well all of us be inconvenienced. Yes, there's going to be jackhammering. Yes, there's going to be construction debris and equipment. I've talked with the staff about that. That would be a sacrifice. They are understanding and they want to move forward with the space. They want to move forward with the private areas, and they will make it work as we go along. So
2 months. Having a problem with that. You said this is the October deadline or timeline.
So, but this will give us a very sound foundation and, dry area for the basement and more storage space than debit cards would probably dream about. So, yeah. Funny story about that is technically at the end of the year, we're supposed to take documents, but I've never actually found it in state statute. And there's many other counties that, tell them, do not send us your boxes of documents for us to store for years on end. You store them yourself. Mm-hmm. And Flory, Vernon Township, historically takes a dolly full of boxes down to Deb. And the last time I had a conversation with her, she's like, "Thank you for not doing that." So we will happily be able to store our own documents in a safe, secure, dry location. So yes. The last thing I have is moving quotes. And then hopefully we can get you guys out. Oh, okay. Sorry, guys, if there's another thing. So Greenfield Fire came in asking for assistance with smoke detectors. So they have had an increase whenever they do their smoke alarm blitz. That they have a donation for the battery powered. However, a lot of our aging communities and a lot of our newer houses, when they do these blitz, they have smoke detectors that are very outdated, but they're the direct wire type. And so accordance to they're legal, they're not electricians, so therefore they cannot retrofit any kind of fire detection. So they'd have to go out and incur these costs of an electrician. I get these calls quite often. This is where I think it kind of goes along that we can make a connection. We get a call from elderly individuals in the community that say, I have to go call or I have to go pay for this electrician and I don't have enough to pay for my utilities or this because they're installing that. Whereas the fire department would be able to install these quick connections that I don't know how they can get away with doing it, but they say that they can. And so I'm not going to question it. But the cost of this is they've asked for $644.40 for 20 smoke alarms with the 20 adapters. And this would be allowed for them to go through when they do these blitzes for them to go in and make sure that there's actually working smoke detectors in our community. And so this would benefit obviously just Center Township since it is our fire territory. So.
Yeah. I didn't realize my wired ones are 40 years old.
Yeah, so smoke detectors are good for 10 years. So you definitely would be on the list.
I'm way out on that one, but
Yeah.
they still work.
I'm sure they do, but the photo rays inside of them, they can get dusty and then therefore they will not be as sensitive to smoke. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
just one sense of them being dusty, but it's also they lose their sense of smell, just like you do after 40 years, you would too. So anyway, that was kind of that request. I kind of look at this as a service agreement. And so to do that, it's not necessarily been allocated in there. We have reserves inside for service agreements. So I see that it's not an issue. I talked with Fred as well, who also didn't seem it was an issue. I wanted to bring it for you guys to see before I move forward with it. If you guys had any thoughts or concerns.
Looks like it's a well-utilized program. I don't see any harm in it. They installed over 1,000.
All the things in the world, this is probably the one
That would be.
it potentially saves more lives than any other service contract.
Say in terms of, because I know we've had residents in the past 2 years that have lost their homes as a result of fire. I mean, paying $600 up front for 40 people to potentially not be someone who needs thousands and thousands of dollars from assistance later, I think is forward. So.
Right. So I have allocated some of that for next year's budget as well. And I told him, I said, well, what happens after the first 20? So, as things happen and progress, I'll keep you guys apprised of that. But I appreciate the nod of approval. The secondary request was a donation service contract for the 250 committee. This came in from Mr. Scavarina. And he was asking for $250 for the 250 committee celebration.
No jokes.
First of all, it's not going,
No, forever.
the answer is no as to a donation,
Correct.
just from council's perspectives.
Well, that was going to be my question, because the amount is pretty small. So, but how would this actually, could you call this a service contract or?
I think that's the only thing you can call it. I'm not really sure what the service is, but
That's my question. What, because so they're just using it for the event, I assume?
Yeah, there's lots of different celebrations they're planning on having part of Riley Days Festival in the next year's 4th of July. So I know that they've been asking around and this was, he asked us as well. So I thought I'd present it to you guys.
Yeah, I know it can't be a donation, so I don't see any other way we could do anything with that. I mean,
I'm trying my best to think of what service it's even being, I'm having a hard time.
Yeah, I would be hard pressed to support it under our current budget, like, not, I think it's a great event. I'm saying that.
I don't object to the call. I just don't know how to
I
get
just
there.
don't think this qualifies as this, we certainly can't do it as a donation, and I, like John, I'm struggling to think of what the service contract would be, this, I mean, it'd be a
Recreation may be a
Yeah.
best.
so I think we would need additional information about how the funds would specifically be used before we can have a colorful argument.
I agree.
Could we do it as a,
Contract.
could we do it as an advertising expense?
You have an advertising budget that you want to use that money from, because that's coming from a different location.
I mean, we already make up the brochures, and we're gonna have to change that here shortly, the address on.
Nope, I never put the address on there.
But I mean, would they, I mean, that would be an idea. They would put our name on there somewhere where it'd be an advertising budget. That would be-
That's
would be
not,
a huge,
that's not, what was suggested. I don't believe, I can ask.
He said startup. That's the issue there, the way
Startup funds.
he put that, startup funds that's probably the biggest part of the problematic, other than the word donation, but because this is a sort of an endowment kind of thing that we were just talking about. What is it? I don't know. My suggestion is that you strongly consider that this is probably a little outside your purview.
okay. I mean, it's a good idea.
Maybe once they have started up.
Right. Correct. And then if there's some other way to make it work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bill used to be on this board, so.
Or, you could ask him to reach out to us individually for donations, and I would be happy to donate as an individual.
Say that too loud.
I didn't say an amount.
Don't want too many people to have your phone number.
All right, so moving on to the last thing, and these are the moving quotes. So into how we did it last session. We have 3 bidders that all were presented in. I'll read those off with the amount that was quoted out. That would be Lenders Moving and Storage. Their quote came in at a
Did you say
total
leaders or lenders?
leaders. Thank you. And that came in at a total of $800.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
Second bid came in at two men and a truck.
Huh.
Total bill or total amount due would be $1,010. The second bid that came in was Bulldogs Moving Company with a total of $1,800. Staff recommendation of the lowest bidder. Obviously, these were all exactly the same. All 3 of them can do the date that we requested. The main thing is they're moving it from ground floor to ground floor. And, all the items that are inside of our offices. So
Does that include all our files and everything?
that is correct.
I've used 2 men in a truck and they're good.
Actually moved the refrigerator,
Okay.
from when we got from the, and I was surprised that they're men. I thought they were very good too. Have you ever used leaders?
I haven't. That's interesting. That, I feel like,
I'm pretty sure it cost me that, because I've used them before. And I'm a little surprised at how costly.
I want to say that it was like $1,300 or $1,400 for wife and I to come here from Westfield.
Mine was to come from.
1,000 to go across town. But they're good. I mean, they did great work. That's kind of interesting. I guess I don't feel strongly, but they are good.
Has anyone here used leaders before?
I don't know.
I know you did a review check last time. Other ones, did you see anything?
I did not do a review check on this one. I will be completely transparent. I cast this out, so I did not do that.
Well, is there any, there's really no discernible distance.
No, they were all given the same list of items, when they were asked for a quote. And they were given a date, and so, no.
I would say we probably want to go with the lowest bid then.
Did you see something?
Well, I'm just trying to decipher what might be the difference here. Let me see.
Well, that's
I don't
like a big spread.
I don't think, I think the first one, the leaders group, it looks to me like that they're not charging this travel or trip charge that the other two are. Standard trip charge on Bulldog is 300. The travel charge on tune in the truck is 200. So I think that's probably the difference between the low and the other two is that they're charging, because I don't see anywhere where they're actually charging a trip charge.
They're just charging for the move.
So, I mean, so I'll ensure that there's not additional, obviously, before we move forward, but, the other side of that, I think 2 minute truck, they were charging per the hour, so it was a guesstimate on how many hours they were gonna need for the move, whereas Bulldog was for the move. So that may be part of it.
That is true. I'm remembering that now, that if it takes less time, I think 2 men will, lower it.
It's 1 hour minimum, it says. And they've estimated 4 hours. So yes, if it's less, I suspect it might be a little lower, but I don't know. Looks to me like the leaders group have just said, we'll do her for $800 and there's not a lot of wiggle room there.
Oh, I mean, in terms of it's responsive and, what's the other one, John?
Most responsible and responsive.
Yep. So, I mean, in terms of responsiveness, I mean, I think all three of them were fully responsive to what we asked for. I looked up leaders. They had a high rating. So, they're out of Indy. I believe that 2 minute trucks tend to be out of Fishers. And so, I mean, I think in terms of qualifications, that they both likely be equal at that level. So unless someone is like really tied to not doing leaders, I would be fine with just going with them. So I would move to adopt the leaders moving and storage quote.
Second.
So we move to second, that we adopt leaders as our moving company. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same side. So moved. Leaders is it.
All I got, guys.
And I'll just hear from you sometime soon on one-on-ones.
Yep.
So for the budgeting, so that will just all be done at that meeting in September for the most part, and then one-on-ones leave outside.
So one-on-ones will be before the September meeting.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm sorry if I misunderstood that. So, yeah, so probably in the next week, I'll give you guys each a few days to choose from, and then we'll sit down. I sat down with Corby, and we worked the numbers, and so then I'll have an actual form that we'll all go sit through, go line by line on each item, and give you what we've spent this year, what we're projecting. We'll talk about the different township assistance cases and where we are on those. If you guys didn't see already, I have another edition of the Insider that's sitting out there. If you guys haven't seen it on your emails. So, trying to get back in having the staff where we have them at now has kind of given me the time. We can get back out the word, get back out what we're doing. And so, I think I've added you to that email list as well, on the newsletter.
Yep.
So,
I'm missing number 16, but.
you can find it on the website.
That's what I figured.
So, but anyway, and then we'll talk about that. So I would estimate our time to be about 2 hours.
And we will hopefully be in the new building for our next meeting, right?
Yes, that is us moving. If you haven't looked at the calendar already, so August 29th is a Friday. And then that next Monday is Labor Day. And so that's, we're going to close that day. Then that's going to lead us into a few more days later. That's going to be the meeting. So I have to get all of the technology moved, packed up, reset up. And I'm not even 100% sure that what we're streaming out right now, we have audio. So I'm still fighting that fight. Like I said, have spent 2 weeks working on that camera, which is still up and working, and it's pointed at us and it says we're live. So we are doing what we're supposed to be doing, and I'm trying my hardest to keep going. So I will sit here tonight. I'll render the video and I'll actually upload it the way that it is. So up there, so everybody has the audio to listen to us. So yes, it should be there.
September 4th is good for the next meeting.
Yeah.
Anybody?
And that will be also I think we're scheduled to do the public hearing on the budget at that point. So you're still gonna have discussions about things if you want to make changes, but that'll be when the official public hearing. Are we going to be entering through 17 for the meeting or 19?
So the conference room is, the entrance is off the 17 side. And so I have signs out there that we are supposed to publish our meetings in a public place outside of the doorway. So I have placed plexiglass things, if you haven't seen already, the list of dates for our meetings, and then also the publication for this meeting, and then for there going forward. Outside of that door, it's kind of forward thinking. You know, I want everybody going through the 19 entrance for our township assistants. But for the meeting, since it's right there, you know, I want them to go through that door since it's just coming all in. Although it doesn't say conference room entrance or anything like that, it's got a big old arrow saying use other entrance. So I think there might be some confusion, and we might have to go in front and change it again or something. I don't know. Or we'll just stand out there and come on in, but to no one. So yes, that will be the entrance.
Good.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Everything about the aye. We're so adjourned.